The views.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sean Deveney from Heavy.com Sports. I've got Steve Bulpett, our NBA insider, with me, who's still recovering. And how you feeling, Steve?
4 miles and 90-degree heat. I think we've established that I'm not the brightest person, right?
Your face is bright. You've got that going for you right now.
Oh,
well, we got some NBA stuff to talk about here, Steve. So I'm going to jump in with some of this. One of the things that has stood out by not standing out for me is what the Chicago Bulls have done this summer, and that is to sign Goran Dragic to a minimum deal and Andre Drummond to a little more than a minimum deal. They use part of their mid-level exception on that. They are clearly cognizant of the luxury tax. They're about $3 million below it. They still have about $7.5 million on their mid-level exception they could use. More than $4 million on their biannual exception that they could use. They chose not to use either one of those. Are the Bulls being a bit cheap here for a team that fancies itself a contender next season?
Yeah, it certainly looks that way, but you don't know, if they're waiting for the other dominoes to fall, which a lot of teams are, I believe. But look, we had this conversation during our videos during the season. I wanted to see the Bulls whole, and with Caruso out and Ball out, and you never really got to see them that way when the important games came. So, I think that's an interesting team. But when you look at how the top of the East has come together, Boston and Milwaukee, and even I think with Harden taking less, I think Philadelphia is going to be interesting again. So my interest with the Bulls, when you look around, it kind of has waned a little bit to the point where I'm agreeing with, I think, your intimation. If they don't make a couple things happen, they're not playing for the Eastern Conference Championship. They can be a good, solid upper tier of the seeding team, but I don't think they're really in a position to compete for the East Championship and a trip to the finals.
Yeah, and certainly the health concerns that they had at the end of last year could continue into next year. We'll see exactly how healthy Lonzo Ball is, but that's a good reason to go out and get yourself a decent backup point guard to make sure that you're not in a position like you were last year where the wheels fall off when you get some injuries. So, I think there is some frustration in Chicago, and I can understand it. I mean, this is a franchise that in the last 21 years, I was checking this out, the last 21 years of the luxury tax has paid it twice. In one of the biggest markets in the NBA, they paid it twice. They paid a total of $8 million. That's a drop in the bucket. That puts them down in the bottom 6 or 7 in the league in terms of overall payment. Now, nobody wants to pay the luxury tax. You shouldn't do it just to do it. But when you're in a position to compete and you've got these assets available to you, the mid-level exception and the biannual exception, you got to use them, and they just let them pass.
Yeah, you've got Levine, you've got DeMar DeRozan. Are you wasting their time? And if you're not going to put the right players around them, then move them, and go for, if you want to save money, fine, go and get, the draft picks and the young players on the rookie scale contracts that are going to be playing above the level of their contract. I do think that Dragic, I like Goran Dragic a lot. And I'm surprised that other teams weren't looking to snap him up. He's the kind of guy that, plays with the right kind of pace. I like his game. So I think he can help them a lot. But, yeah, if you're not going to go for it, then, like the worst thing you can be in the NBA is stuck in that middle earth, right? If you're not going for it, you're not good enough to compete, not bad enough to get the kind of draft picks that get you the prime talent where you can get the star player on a rookie scale deal.
Yeah, and it's it's a great fan base. I was out there in the early 2000s after Michael Jordan left, and we had the Tyson Chandler, Eddie Curry disaster, and there was Jamal Crawford was there, Jay Williams, it happened there, Dalibor Bogaric, Marcus Fizer. I saw a lot of that, and those stands were sold out every night. Even through all that, those stands were always packed. They did not nosedive. The TV deal is good. The radio deal is good. They've got way more assets behind them than most franchises do. But they also have the Reinsdorf family at the top of the food chain, and they have just not been willing to spend the money that sometimes you got to spend in order to really compete in the NBA, in order to really take a championship chance. Like I say, you don't go into luxury tax just to do it. You don't go into luxury tax to be a middle tier team, but you do have to go into it sometimes if you want to have a real chance at being a contender.
Yeah, years ago when Jordan was there, and his contract was up. I'm not sure if you and I have discussed this before, but so back in those days, access was a lot easier. And I used to, having a conversation with Jordan was really easy to do. And we had a running conversation for years about other stuff. But anyway, I went up to him and I said, look, I got an idea for you, but you got to promise me that if you use it, I get the story. And he goes, okay, what is it? And I said, your contract is up. Play for the minimum. Say you're going to just take the minimum and, to allow the team to put the right players around you so that you guys can win. I said, whatever money you lose in that, you'll more than make up in that your profile as a salesperson will be increased dramatically to the point because you'll be, Mr. Take One for the team, Mr. I'm all about winning. And he pondered it for a second and he goes, I'd do that. He goes, but I wouldn't trust that they'd spend the money.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Yeah.
And that was back when they were, in the mix and winning championships and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think he was on to something there. But let's move on to the other side of the scale, and that's the Golden State Warriors, who will be paying their fair share of luxury taxes. I've heard that there are teams still sort of knocking around trying to see if they can get James Wiseman loose from the Warriors. Golden State, and I think there's a certain amount of stubbornness involved that they want to show that this was the number 2 pick, and gosh darn it, he's going to be good. So they have always shut down any kind of conversation when it comes to him, even though this is a championship team that probably needs to add something else along the way. Are they right to sort of hold on to this young piece the way that they are?
The only question I have there is his health, right? If they're confident that he is fine, I wouldn't let anyone within 5 miles of him. If someone calls and said, "Hey, we're interested in trading for don't even get the whole name James out," I'm hanging up the phone. This guy can be a beast. Big body. Good movement, good touch, all those things. He's got a chance to be like a major player. And they went through their bad fortune times, right? And that allowed them to get a guy like this who they never ever could have gotten. Because if you look at Golden State and say, okay, it's what hole would they have in their lineup? Well, they don't have the really dominant big type guy. This guy can be that. Again, is he going to be healthy? But if he is, you wrap your arms around him and you call him every night and tell him you love him and you're never going to let him go away.
I think that's what they've been doing. I think Joe LaCobe has him on speed dial just for that reason. Let me go through one more topic, and this has been one that's been sort of a drag on everyone's life for the last 12 months or so. But it's still, what's that?
You're talking about gas prices?
Well, there's that, but this might be an even bigger waste of money, and that's Russell Westbrook. The Lakers. There's been all this talk that they're going to trade him, that he's going to wind up in San Antonio. He's going to wind up in Indiana, maybe Brooklyn. He's going to wind up somewhere that's not the Lakers. I don't know if you saw the video of them both at Westbrook and LeBron at a summer league game, and never the twain should meet. The Russ will stay on one side of the stadium and LeBron staying on the other. So it certainly looked at times like this was destined for a split here. He's a tough guy to trade though, and you might have to accept the fact that he's coming back. And now there's reports that, well, everything's fine. They had a phone conversation, and anything that you might have read is no longer true. Are you buying that? Does that seem like a smokescreen? Like they've got to make it like everything's okay in order to rescue some semblance of trade? What do you make of all that?
Well, necessity is the mother of let's stay together, right? Yeah. So I think there is some of that. I think there is also, from what I've heard, elements within the Lakers that really want to give Darvin Ham a shot at this. We wrote a story, about a week and a half ago, Sean, about the opinion that other coaches have of Darvin Ham. He's a different kind of dude, that he's not going to put up with the weirdness that we've seen in LA. With that organization, and that he's the kind of guy that will get through to players. So, I think as they've seen Darvin approach the job, attack the job, if they had options with Russell Westbrook, I'm sure they'd move him. But as the days have gone on and the options aren't there, it's the idea of, maybe if you look in your closet and there's not a lot there, maybe I will wear that suit. That suit's looking a little bit better right now, maybe the right coach, to accessorize this thing. All of a sudden we've turned into, anyway. Please stop me before this analogy goes too far. I think they want to give Darvin Ham a shot at it, if nothing else pops up. Excuse me.
Yeah, I think that the one issue that I'd have with that line of thinking is, all right, what if you get to January and it's not working? That you've got a better chance, if anything pops up, to move Russell Westbrook now than you're going to during the season. It's hard to move a $47 million contract in the middle of the year.
Yeah, well, there's less to pay at that point. You could look at it that way. But yeah, again, if they could find a nice, loving home for Russell Westbrook, they would gladly move him along. But then you have to look at, what are you replacing him with? It's hard to think that someone you're replacing with someone that's going to be worse for what you're trying to do than Russell Westbrook was this past year. But maybe too that there's a realization after going through that a kind of year like that, Russell, maybe he's got to change his game a little bit, to fit in here, to make the overall situation work better. Has he come to that conclusion? And if he has he communicated that to the Lakers brass and to his coaching staff? But their coaches there now, Darvin Ham, Rasheed Wallace. Those guys are not really big on putting up with a lot of BS. So, be interesting to see how that plays out if they're forced to play it out with the same essential rotation.
Yeah, it's one of the 3 or 4 loose ends, pretty big loose ends that I think are still lingering out there in the league. Thank you, Steve, for joining me here, and thank you, folks, for watching. Again, I'm Sean Deveney from Heavy Sports. Check out heavy.com for more on the NBA. Thanks.